Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an impromptu stream of the AV experience. I'm by myself, your host, Ryan. Jonathan, I don't even think I told Jonathan this stream was happening because, frankly, I was bored. I was supposed to be doing something, but it is raining. So I am here answering any of your AV and home theater questions, and also to mention some things that I have in stock that need to find homes. So if you have any interest in the things that I have in stock, please shoot me a message or shoot me an email. That can be found here. You can send me a message and we can get that going. These things really do need homes. But again, if you have any questions, I recognize that people probably aren't going to be joining very quickly. But if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them and really just hang out with you guys for a little bit because I was supposed to be doing stuff this morning, supposed to be going to pick something up, and it's raining, so that's not going to happen. So now I'm here with all of you. So how's everybody doing? Trying to think of what next thing that I'm gonna watch and what I'm gonna do today. I've got The Lens coming, as we talked about last night. Alan Gower sent that to me, so I'm hoping that's gonna be really good. It should arrive, I think, at some point, which reminds me, I need to look at what that thing is doing on tracking. So let's go ahead and do that. Where is that lens? Alan. Where's the tracking number? Right here. Are there any updates? Oh, arriving late. Thanks, USPS. That was hugely helpful. Arriving late. So it no longer says it's in Indianapolis. It just says in transit to next facility. Awesome. That's hugely helpful. I'm so glad that that's the information that they're giving me. No idea of when it's arriving in Kansas City, so maybe next week at some point. That is a little disheartening, unfortunately, but we'll see what happens. No, Paul, that's the beauty of it. Keep you on your toes. If we keep you on your toes and keep you guessing, you're in this constant state of limbo and you really have no expectation, and thereby you can't think negatively of us because you have no idea what we're doing. Okay, yeah, you could think negatively of us for exactly that reason, but our lives are so chaotic. We both have a few kids, and trying to get things on the schedule for both of us to be on, it would just be problematic. Sundays worked really well for a long time, but then Jonathan's life got in the way. I know life, right? I should just tell Jonathan, no, home theater above all else. Family, no, backseat, home theater. He had stuff come up on Sundays when we used to stream, so that didn't become available. Sundays work really well for me still, but now we just kind of go whenever makes the most sense. Mike Ortiz says, I'm getting an itch to explore BEQ. What are your thoughts on it? I am not a huge proponent of BEQ. I don't think necessarily it's bad. My issue with it is that your experience is dictated by somebody else and what they think should be in there. And I think a lot of times what happens, and a lot of times the reason that people look for and want to use BEQ is because there's issues that exist in their room. They either don't have enough horsepower through amperage, excursion, surface area. Frankly, they just don't have enough horsepower in their subs. Uh, or there's some phasal issues going on in the room, time domain problems. There's a mode that they're sitting in that the subs can't fix unless the subs are moved. There's a mode that may be fixed because, again, of phase problems or time domain issues. So I think they think, oh, my subs are great. I just need to increase output. That's why I'm not getting what I'm getting. And to me, that's not the correct course of action. I think there is enough bass in a lot of movies that it's not really a problem. I think a lot of the things that maybe people think they want more of, and they're like, oh, this must be single digit. It's really not. And I have a measurement mic, a calibrated measurement mic that is actually calibrated to SPL using an SPL calibrator for measurement mics in my room that I can then feed into Smart and see in real time what frequencies are actually being played. And a lot of things that people think are really low, while they are low, they're still in the 20 to 30 hertz range. So I think a big part of BEQ is that we have this misidentification of what we're after, and we forget that there are probably problems that are preventing us from getting to where we want to be. And we've talked about this in the past where, and I've just talked about this momentarily ago, we have a tendency to increase SPL to get tactile feel. And that in and of itself can create its own level of problems. So while BEQ is fine, I don't think it's needed. And the other part of me is I'm kind of lazy and I don't want to be changing BEQ all the time for whatever I'm watching. I just want to press a button and go. I don't want to press a button, then have to go find a BEQ filter, load it in, and go from there. That's not what I want. So part of it's technical and part of it is sheer laziness. Ryan, hello. This was a surprise. I can't watch live. I can watch live now. Usually it's hard for me on Friday and weekend evenings. Yeah, I'm glad that I can come to you and you can watch live. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to be the same as the other streams, but I recognize that evenings are difficult for a good part of the world. When I did professional Twitch streaming, when I was doing the combat flight sim stuff and running those tournaments, I would try and stream in the mornings right around 9 or 10 a.m. because that's when it was most conducive for the majority of the world's population. You would still run into problems with Australia or Asia because they're 12 and 17 hours ahead of us. So that would become problematic. But for a good part of the world, the US, the Middle East, Europe, it worked out really well, where Middle East was in the evenings, Europe was in the afternoons. They're between 6 to 9 hours ahead. So it works out. Maybe I should start doing these more. You guys will have to let me know if it's good for me to just get on and shoot the breeze with all of you, because I do enjoy doing it. I have no problem talking. I mean, when I was doing my professional Twitch streaming stuff, I would get on and I would talk for 8 hours because we would run these huge tournaments, and the tournaments every match would take 2 to 3 hours, and I would run 2 or 3 matches per stream. So you'd get on and I'd do them by myself, and you would talk for 8 hours. And while it was fun, it was also exhausting, but it teaches you to always have something to say. And you live on the front of your brain where you have the ability, somehow you develop this ability to just have even less of a filter. I had no filter to begin with, or little filter to begin with, and then it just got less when I learned how to do all of that. It's a acquired talent. I don't know that anybody can necessarily do it off the cuff, but it was fun. So maybe we should do more of these. Paul Travisano says, I'm planning on a small home theater in my basement, 1 row for maybe 4 people. I'm going to do DIY some Ultimax subs. Do you think 2 is sufficient, or should I go right away to do 4? There is no limit, and there is no law that says you can't have X amount of subs. You could make the room out of subs and it would be beneficial. Right? So to me, if the budget allows and the space allows, just immediately go for 4. I cannot promise, based on the room dimensions, which we haven't talked about here, that every sub is going to be in an ideal location. But if you typically do them in the 4 corners, that is going to be more beneficial over just having the 2 subs in the front. So if space and budget allows, send it. Just go. Do the 4 right away. Throw caution to the wind. And don't even think about 2, just go 4. And while you're thinking about 4, you might as well do 8. That's what you should do. Forget 4 and do 8. And then if you're thinking about 8, you should do 12. And then if you're thinking really about 12, you should do 24. And then if you're thinking about 24, we should just make all of the walls out of subs. Correct course of action. Nah, back to reality, just do 4 is what I would say. Paul Travisano, and are 18s the best option for future proof or just overkill? They are not overkill. Keep in mind that not all subs are made equal. So just because something is an 18 does not mean it is necessarily going to be better than something else. So I would say 18s are a great sweet spot. A good quality 18 is really good. It's going to bring the surface area. Most of them for a good 18, not most of them, good 18s are going to have needed excursion. they're just going to be that sweet spot for cost for performance. Going up is going to be potentially prohibitively more expensive, and going down, you lose the performance. So 18 is a good sweet spot that delivers a lot of what you're after. So if you can fit 18s, I would do 18s. So Drew Aradano says, yes, do more with actual warning, though. It would be nice to have a little heads up. No, we fly by the seat of our pants here, Drew. There's no warning. I actually gave you like a 30-second, maybe a 3-minute warning. So that's just how we roll. Little warning. But if you guys like these, I will schedule them. Maybe I can do these some mornings and we can just make them scheduled and I can do them consistently. Maybe I should do that. Matt A, what would you recommend to determine how many rows of seating are optimal for a space? A lot of that is going to be based on um, size of the room and budget. And I do have to do something for an NV while we're talking. So just be aware that if I'm a little sidetracked, that would be why. But big things with that, Matt, are going to be size of the space and budget, because for more rows, you typically need more speakers, larger room. There's more to think about unless you just say, yeah, I don't care about those rows. I don't care about those rows. So they're just there as spectators. And I would encourage people to look at that in those extra rows as in that viewpoint, where most people that are not you that are going to use your own home theater don't know any better. And the people that do are probably going to sit in the front row anyway, because they know where to sit. So I always encourage people, design for the 99%. Don't design for the 1% use case. Don't sit here and say, I need to make everybody's experience the same. While that is possible, the problem with doing that is it becomes cost prohibitive. Oh, I'm just dealing with something with MB. Ryan jumps off a cliff and builds the airplane on the way down the damn scheduling. Yeah, that's more fun. It's more fun doing it that way. When you don't know what's going to happen, when you don't know what's in the way or what's coming your way. So sometimes it's fun just to see where things go. Ugh. Drew Ardano says, is VDR designed to work with the projector calibrated at 300 nits? And if so, if your projector is doing more, how do you think that will affect the performance of VDR? It is not designed to work at any specific nits level. It's designed to work at whatever you have available. Keep in mind that VDR is going to be utilized in a commercial application. That is where it's primarily going to be used. So commercial, in a lot of uses, is not going to get anywhere near 300 nits. So don't think that it's designed to be used in that. It's much more flexible than that. I won't go into the details, but you're not shoehorning and saying, I have to have 300 nits. You can use that, but you're not stuck in utilizing that for sure. Hi, Show Burrow. Ken says, have you ever seen a silver fire painted screen? Silver fire painted screen? The creation of National Treasure Mississippi Man on ABS. If so, how does it compare to commercial offerings? I have not seen Silver Fire. I've not seen Silverfire, so not sure what that is. The creation of National Treasure, Mississippi Man. I'm really confused by this comment. Can you provide some context into what exactly you mean? Have you ever seen Silverfire painted screen? Does that mean it's painted on the wall? And then I don't know what the parenthesis comment, the creation of national treasure, maybe Mississippi Man is the national treasure and is I don't know who that is. Oh, he made it? No, I've not. I've not seen one of these screens. I don't know. The number of painted screens I've seen, I can count on one hand. I don't see those very often. Silverfire is OG painted screen mix, early LCD projectors and CRTs, I think. Huh. I didn't know this was a thing. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with a painted screen. You're going to run into some continuity problems because the wall is not going to be perfectly flat. It's not going to be as uniform. But if that's what you have and that's what you have access to, I think that would be fine. And you probably in normal viewing be hard pressed as long as the paint was adequate to be able to tell. What tips do you have on trying to fix common nulls and dips in the 40 to 30 to 40 hertz range in subwoofers? For reference, I'm using Unfinished Basement, have two clips you reference, Premiere 12-inch subs. Um, Usually those issues are due to placement, either from of the listening position in how can I word this? In comparison where the sub's located or where you put the subs in comparison to the reference seating position. They're kind of the same, it's just different ways of saying it. So, you could just have nulls, but those nulls are created by the position of where the subs are in comparison to the reference seating position and where you sit when those sound waves pass through you. So, you're sitting in a null, right? What you want to try and do is position other subs so that when their sound waves come through, you're not in that null from that sub. And that's the benefit of having multiple subs. You just want to make sure that things are time aligned so that you're not canceling each other's out. The subs aren't canceling each other out. You're sitting in a null. And I would bet if you measure a foot or two forward and a foot or two back and a foot or two to the left and a foot or two to the right, the null changes if not goes away. So it's all about timing. Not really timing. It's all about your position and where you're sitting in comparison to where that null or peak exists in the sound wave. So try and move where you're sitting. And before you move, try and move the measurement position to see if things improve. And if you can't move the seating position, try and move the subs. Or if it's easier to move the subs instead of the seating position, move the subs. Um, But usually it's where you're sitting in comparison to where the subs are located. And you just happen to have a null at 30 or 40 hertz. And that null, aside from it being positioning, though it could also be positioning in this, the subs could just be fighting each other, right? And they just may be out of time alignment, and getting them into time alignment will remove potentially that null. Last thing, I doubt it's this one, is if you have a really low crossover that is pushing into that region, your time alignment between the subs and the mains may be problematic. Ernie Bless says a lot of those guys using painted screens would actually use sheets of MDF and then hang those, not exclusively wall painted, but certainly could. Why do that instead of just getting a screen? I mean, getting like a silver ticket is going to be just as cheap as using MDF. So I'm not really sure I understand why you would do that. I understand if you're just going to paint the wall, but maybe they're using MDF as the wall. Not really. I don't follow that one. Why would you do that? I mean, you can get a silver ticket 120-inch screen for $300, $250. So why do that? That's interesting. Andrew 1977. I have a PSA XS30 SE subwoofer in my current theater. I have a riser at the rear. Would it be better at the rear of on the riser as I currently have it below my center speaker? Is that the only sub you have? Provide some more context on the setup. If that's the only sub you have, I don't think I would do that. And having the sub underneath your center, probably not the most ideal position. You'd have to measure and do a sub crawl to figure out what the most ideal is, but I'm betting that's not the most ideal. You could gain gain by corner loading the sub, so you could gain more output. So you could corner load it, but I don't think I would put one sub behind me because you will at certain frequencies be able to localize it. And if it's away from the screen, especially depending on your crossover, you may have some male vocal that gets anchored into that subwoofer, which will be non-ideal as well. But give me some more context on your room. We'll come back to that. Paul Travisano, these lifestyle projectors in 2 to 3K range are really seeming to be competitive, innovating quickly, and good value. What's your thoughts? Save for an Epson and forget these. It depends on what you're after, and it depends on your budget. I think the lifestyles can, if they fit the bill in that very specific use case. A lot of them don't have motorized lenses or adjustable zoom or anything like that. So that hurts. A lot of them are very limited on brightness, and Epson is going after a lot of them because of that, of those false claims. So that is a problem. But they do bring other stuff. Like a lot of them have Android built in, which allows for you to stream directly from the projector. That can be very nice. So it's a give and take. What do you want to compromise on? What are you trying to get out of it? And does the lifestyle projector deliver on that premise? If it does, there's nothing wrong with getting it. If it doesn't, you're shoehorning yourself. You're putting yourself into a corner unnecessarily, and that is going to be problematic. So ask yourself what you're after, and then try and pick the tool that best delivers what you're after and best delivers that in your room. Because not everything is going to work perfectly well in your room. So that is the other part of this, is just because something measures really well in somebody's room doesn't mean it's going to work necessarily in somebody else's. Good question, though. Ernie, so this is about the painted screens. I think the original idea was using a paint blends to get grayscale for better contrast when there wasn't as much fabric options on the market. I can understand that when there weren't as many gray screens, but then the problem is you're compromising on your white point for the gray. So it's always a compromise. And you're not really getting better contrast. You're getting better perceived contrast, but your contrast should still be linear. So the white point changes. So your native contrast number should be the same. You're just skewing it down and everything is shifting. So I don't really buy that. I understand the idea because perceived contrast is very valuable, but you're sacrificing on the other end then doing something like this. And that's why people usually say use a white screen, a neutral screen, because you're keeping your white point and you are doing as good as you can on the dark. And in a perfectly light controlled room, the screen should go away. So if you don't put any light on it, it should be black. So I view this as you're just compromising on the other end of the spectrum. I understand why, and gray screens can be cool depending on what you're after, but I wouldn't do that. So Andrew gives more context on that PSA. He says it's the only sub he has. It's got two 15s. I would leave it in the front. I don't think I would put it in the back. I would add more subs if possible. Absolutely. One sub can be okay, but adding more is going to give you a much better frequency response. It's going to lower the opportunity for you to be able to localize a sub. And it's going to potentially open up placement options. So I would do a sub crawl with that sub in that room and try and figure out what is the best placement opportunity for you. It may be where it is, but my bet is that it's not. So maybe put it on a furniture dolly, move it around the room, play test tones in every location. You can also try adjusting minutely your reference seating position, moving it forward and moving it back to see if you get better response there, removing some knolls. That's another thing that you can do that a lot of people don't consider, because a few inches can make a big difference sometimes. Ryan, great shoe and always listening. I do like shoes. I don't think that's what you meant. I think you meant great show, but I do like shoes. I have a shoe problem where I have to be very careful about going on Nike's website and be like, I like this one. I like this one. Oh, there's a sale. Let's get that one just because. So I do like shoes, but I appreciate the comment about the great show. Much appreciated. Oh, you corrected yourself afterwards. I'm picking on you and you corrected yourself. Heshuburo Khan. Different question. My room is a one-way vault preventing the use. One-way vault preventing the use of on-ceiling Atmos. Should I try front or middle heights? RP22 provides great guidance, but didn't account for stupid 90s FL construction. I don't know what I would do in this situation. How tall are your ceilings, Brickhen? Give me that information, then I'll make a better recommendation on what you need. Drew Arredondo, that's why you need to mount a minimum of 3 different projectors in your room, which are directed to specific content. Yes! The John Von England way. That is how we all should watch content. We should all, and I think we should develop a mechanism that it's able to like block light, depending on the scene, where it directly analyzes what the scene is and the APL level of the scene. It's like better native contrast needed, better light output needed, better ANSI needed, better motion needed. And it's like flipping back and forth in some Willy Wonka fantasticness to be able to deliver some abomination of an image. Wouldn't that be something? Andrew, I appreciate that. He says, thanks, Ryan, for all the streams. I try to listen to all of them. They are much appreciated. I really just want to, and this is Jonathan's idea too, we just want to help the community. I became a dealer. For anybody that doesn't know, I am a custom integrator dealer. I work for MadVR. I do a lot of stuff. I became a dealer and started this journey because I didn't like how people were being treated by custom integrators. It was this constant idea of how much money can I get out of people? And I didn't like that. So my approach was, and still is to this day, very much, if I don't think you need it, I will tell you don't buy it. Right? Don't do it. This is a waste of money. You need to take that money and spend it on your room. You need to take that money and buy more subs. Or don't do anything because you're perfectly happy with what's going on. Some people don't need to chase the rabbit. That's okay. Some people do. And with the people that do, depending on your personality, if it will give you a 1 or 2 or 3 or 5% gain, I'll say you probably need to spend this, because if you're like me, you're always going to wonder, could this be better? And one of the best things that I've gotten from the MadVR Experience Center after building it is the idea that once you remove the ability or the psychological subjective thinking of could this be better, and allow yourself to fully get immersed in the content, it becomes a totally different ballgame where you appreciate music, and any type of media much more because you're not constantly thinking, was this as good as it can get? Do I need to tweak something? Let's adjust the house curve. Let's adjust the bass. Once you're to a point of AV nirvana, there's nothing to worry about. And you allow yourself to get completely consumed and encapsulated by the content itself. And that is very freeing. And it's a feeling that I want more people to get to. What it takes for you to get there is different for every person. Some people need to get all the percentage points to get there. Some people need to get most of the way there, and some people just need to get half of the way there, and they're perfectly happy. It all depends on your own personality. So I can't say, here's the goalpost that you must get to. There is none of that. You've got to figure it out for yourself and really do a deep dive into your own psyche of what is good enough. And once you figure that out, try and obtain that. There we go. Give me a moment, guys. Keep the questions going. I'm hoping this Envy is gonna cooperate. There we go. And for anybody that missed the very beginning of the stream, because I don't need to look at chat for this one, I do have some Storm Audio ISPs Core 16 Infusions that do need a home. So they are Cedia demos. They're from Cedia, so they would be B stock. But if you're looking or have been thinking about doing a Storm or doing anything like that, you are it, and you think you may want to pull the trigger, shoot me a message. And I'm going to put my email up on screen right now. Shoot me a message. I also do have some Epsons. They are new in box. So if you think you may want an Epson, all of this stuff can go immediately. And we can schedule for the Storms for me to come out because that is a hand delivery product. But if those things are things that interest you, feel free to send me a message and we can get you taken care of. I will tell you if I think either of those are going to be appropriate for your system. So don't think that my mindset changes just because I have something available, right? If I think it's makes sense for your chain, sure. If I don't, I'm going to tell you probably not the best idea. You need to do something else or don't even worry about upgrading. All right. Let's get rid of that caption because I don't want it to come across like I'm just after people's wallets because that is not true. All right. Just doing some NV stuff here for a moment, guys. Give me a second. But keep the questions coming. I will come back to them. Let's see. Does this see it? It does. So that's good. So let's do this. Actually, not that. I want to do this. Let's try this. Sorry, I'm talking to myself, trying to figure out how I want to accomplish this. And then we will drop on some firmware stuff. I will come back to you. Just got to knock this out real quick. All right, well, this is doing its thing. One more thing. Ah! All right, MV software. For anybody just joining, I am just trying to get some troubleshooting stuff out of the way here real quick. I know it's kind of weird to do it live on stream, but got to get done. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. I know you can. You're just doing a lot of stuff at the same time. All right, we'll wait on that. All right. Carl Arnes asks, I have a question. I have 4 24 in stereo integrity subs and sounds phenomenal. However, curious if I should add in a couple of 18 Pro audio style subs for the mid and upper mids. Thoughts on this? How do I feel about that? Should you add 18 pros? I don't think that's a good idea. I think those 24 stereo integrities are going to eat those 18 pros they're going to eat them up. The frequency range are more than adequate. And the 18s, I think, are just going to inhibit the 24s. So if you're happy with how the 24s are, what are you chasing? Have you measured it? What's your frequency response like? Are you running into compression? Is this room huge? What's going on? Answer those questions. But if you're happy, don't chase the rabbit just to do it, right? Adding more does not necessarily mean better, depending on the room. If you added more 24s, yeah, probably okay. But if you're going backwards and adding 18s, I don't think that's the right way to go about it. But I don't know what the frequency response is on those 24s. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the 24s suck at upper bass. I don't think that's the case, but maybe they do. So I don't know. It depends on what you're after. But if you're happy and your response is great, I don't know that I would touch that. Hashiburo Ken says 8.5 feet on the left, 14 foot on the right. It's a right trapezoid. Oh, HBK is fine if it makes pronunciation easier. Can you give me the pronunciation for this? Give me the pronunciation of your name so I don't butcher it. I mean, I can call you HBK. It doesn't matter. What would I do? How tall is your room? Issue, you may have already said that, but maybe that's what you're answering. 8.5 on the left, 14 on the right. If that's the height of the room, I would not put heights in. I would just stick with base layer. Less is more. Don't try jamming things in that don't make sense. I would not do heights. It's not beneficial in a lot of times. And if your front wall isn't tall enough to get the heights far enough away from your mains, it's going to do nothing. You're not going to be able to differentiate between the height and the main. So I would just do base layer. I wouldn't even bother with heights. Paul A says, is it common for max trim to be applied from an AVR for really sensitive speakers? And does this affect the sound negatively? If so, what's the process to work around this? Max trim. Are you talking about like it's lowering your gain as much as possible? Is that what you're talking about, Paul? Give me the information on that. Some more context of what you mean by max trim. I'm probably just really dumb in what you mean. I think that's God, I got the hiccups. I think that's what you mean, but I want to make sure. Eye itches. Andrew, 1977. Thanks, man. In Australia, here prices are crazy, so I've been living in the secondhand market. 7.1.4 Mirage FRX speakers, Marantz SR6012, all QSC DCA amps powering my speakers, and the PSA sub. What did I ask you, Andrew? I think I just gave you context. Seems like a good setup if you're happy with it. I'm not saying it's bad when I'm saying if you're happy with it. I'm saying if you're happy with it, don't go chasing the rabbit. Don't think that adding more or changing things is going to make it necessarily better. We're all different with how we see this stuff. So you may add stuff and go, well, that wasn't worth it. Or you may add something, you may add another sub and go, oh my gosh, I should have done this a long time ago. It just depends on you. So you've got to figure out what type of person you are. I personally would add more subs. No question, if you can. Now, you want to try and match the subs. Don't think, I'm going to take my QSA and then I'm going to add a 10-inch sub. Bad idea. Or don't think that I'm going to get a peak QSA and I think that's a ported sub, and then I'm going to get other different ported subs. Bad idea, because your phase is going to be different at the port tunes and it's going to introduce a bunch of different anomalies that's going to create a bunch of different problems. So I don't think I would do that either. So answered that. Andrew says, this hobby is like Alice in Wonderland. The more I learn, the more I learn I didn't know. And the more I find products I'd want. Ignorance is bliss, my friend. That's why I say ignorance is bliss, but I also say ignorance is cheap, right? So don't go after something if you don't want the veil to be lifted over your eyes, right? I warn people when they come to my room in that you come here, there's no unhearing and there's no unseeing, because that becomes the new status quo for a lot of people. It's the status quo for me. That is the benchmark. It's happened to reps, it's happened to vendors. It becomes the point that people want to get to. So if you don't want to get there, or you don't want to worry about it, stay ignorant. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know that's kind of weird for somebody to say and something to think about, but not knowing, and if you don't know, it's free. It's very freeing, because you don't know that you should spend more. You don't know that there's something better out there, and you can live in that moment that we talked about earlier, the AV nirvana. You can live in that space and be fully captivated without worrying or wondering if there's something better or the experience could change to make it better. So evaluate what you want to do and ask yourself, do you want to be ignorant? Nothing wrong with that. Or do you want to have the veil lifted and chase something that you may not want to chase? I don't know. Andrew, you're not rambling. I appreciate it. 876, Oprah Winfrey. Ryan, what do you think about the Chernov CI? I don't have an opinion about the Chernov because I've never used it, the CI product. I like Chernov. I like Storm. I like, if it fits the mold of what you're trying to accomplish, it makes sense. If it doesn't and doesn't do what you want, even if that thing that you don't want is it's too expensive, then don't buy it. So I don't have an opinion on the Chernov CI because I've never used it. And I don't want to weigh on it because I have zero experience with it. I think it's a cool concept. I'm glad that Chernov is making a foray into AES 67, but I don't think, I can't say I don't think, I don't have an opinion on it because I haven't used it. HBK says, Upgradus is a hell of a condition to manage. It is. It absolutely is. Ignorance is bliss sometimes. Mike Stevens, how is the bass management set up for the theater, Ryan? All subs playing 80 hertz down, or are some subs covering certain frequencies? So the kicks, how the room is set up is Chernov and Storm, Dirac and Optimizer only know, in waveforming, only know that the 21s exist. Then the infras, the 32s and the 64, the 33s and the 64 are brought in on the Storm to zone 2 and on the on the Chernov through a QSC 110F. So two different ways of doing it, but accomplishing the same means, because when you introduce the infras to both of those architectures, it goes and nothing works. So by introducing them after and not allowing those platforms to know that they exist, good things happen. That means we're allowing the 21s to roll off natively. And I believe this is how things should be done, in my opinion, right or wrong. This is how I view it. Allow things to roll off when they want to roll off. If you boost low, you are going to, if you start pushing the limits, encounter compression, right? So I recognize where they want to roll off. And then how can I put this? I am, what's the word? There's a word there. I don't know what the word is. I'm going to think of it as soon as I get past this. But I am bringing in the 33s and 64s to supplement where they roll off. So it's just another crossover without there being a crossover. But that's how we're doing it. So the 33s and the 64 pick up where the 21s leave off. 21s roll off naturally. We're not boosting them at all. 33s and 64 pick up where those leave off, and then we're flat down to 5 at like 115 dB. So that's how the room works. You've got Dirac not using the 33s to the 64. It's only using the 21s in art. Optimizer with waveforming, it's only using the 21s. And then we bring in the 33s and the 64 afterwards. And we manually integrated those. Sorry, guys, just doing something else here. Give me uno momento. Okay. Let that reboot. Hishoburaiken. Oh, I'm going to butcher this as soon as I forget about this comment. I'm going to immediately forget about it. Not because I want to, but because I'm dumb. I'm going to immediately forget about this, and you're going to make fun of me. So what I'm going to try and do is take a screenshot of that, and you're going to say something. And if I say this a few times, maybe I'll remember it. Paul A, yeah, the demon will apply -12 to all the front channels when the demon when trying to calibrate to reference. That sucks. That's not fun, but it's a limitation, unfortunately, of not being able to adjust the amp gain. Unfortunately, that's the only option it has, and then it can only go down to -12, if I remember correctly. You don't have any attenuation that you can apply on the amplifiers? Like, there's no dials or anything, it's just raw? Ryan G, do Trinov or Storm or other processors allow manually setting all-pass filters per channel? Odyssey Multi-EQ X doesn't. Anthony Gramani suggests all-pass filters to really dial in the surround imaging. So Storm is adding those, and Trinov does allow for those. So yes. And Gramani is absolutely correct that those are very important in adjusting phase, because your phase is going to change at different frequencies. So as far as I understand it, I am not as smart as Gramani or like Peter Alit or any of these guys when it comes to this stuff, or Matt Trinkline or Adam Peltz. So as I understand it, your phase can change when at different frequencies. So all pass filters can be hugely beneficial in correcting this, because it allows you to make changes in the time domain. Storm and Trinov definitely does. Storm is adding this, if I remember correctly. As far as other processors, I don't know if other processors have access to that. I'm not sure. All right. But that's good if you're trying to get into that. That will make a big difference. Can the mini DSP do that? Can QSC do that? I know there's some amps that can. Andrew, 1977, thanks. You said what I was thinking. I'm looking at 18 subs times 4 sealed. Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. I wouldn't worry about that. Hold on, guys. Just finalizing this fix for this customer. Update that. St. Louis sports fan says, I'm elated with my home theater. I went to the KC Crawl and every one of the home theaters was superior. My first movie back home was a bit disappointing, but after a bit, I was back to being totally satisfied. That's really good. I think that's really good. That's really important. I'm glad you're able to get to that point because not everybody can do that. But for you, I think it was a realization of how good your theater actually is. And that's fantastic. I'm so glad that that happened to you and you can be satisfied in the moment. I think that is an awesome place to be. Regardless of the level of theater, I'm sure your theater is phenomenal. Regardless of the level you find yourself at, if you are satisfied, there is nothing wrong with that. You could be listening on a sound bar. I hate it when people are like, oh, sound bar is so stupid. When people get on the sound bar and they get on this train of, well, they're not as good. It doesn't matter because given a use case and given the compromises that may be present and given your own psyche, a sound bar may be good enough. So if it is, there is nothing wrong with that. And that's a great place to be. If it gets you to your AV or Nirvana, nothing wrong with it. Andrew says, yeah, I resist going and listening to other systems because once I hear it, I'll have to get it. I know that feeling. And that was my mistake going to Atlanta Home Theater. I did that. I sat down after being made fun of for not wanting to go listen and immediately knew it was a mistake. Just went, yeah, shouldn't be here. This was bad. This was a mistake. And knew that was going to be a problem. But I'm glad I did now because that's my personality. I would have, having heard that and then not doing what I did, I would always be wondering, man, how would this be different? There would always be a comparison. I'd always be changing stuff, trying to get to something different, trying to get to something I thought was better. And now that feeling being gone, I have no regrets. Steven, yeah, ignorance is bliss. All right. Can I do this? Hishobu Raiken. Did I do it? Yeah. I even said it in the Street Fighter way. The biggest and best upgrades I've made this past year are to my content sources, ripping Blu-rays for streaming, upgrading to Nintendo Switch 2, and getting more powerful PC to play high-quality games. How is the Switch 2? My daughter loves the Switch. I don't play it. My daughter loves it. Is it worth it? Is it that much better? Like, I got no problem buying it if it's worth it. Is it better? Forget that she's 6. Pretend that I'm playing it. Is it better? Is it a all around or mostly increase in quality over the original Switch? Paul A, there isn't wondering if calibrating to a higher number of the dial on the dial instead of 0 may be a thing. I'm not sure what you mean, Paul. Did you ask a question? Oh, the max trim thing? There's no volume attenuation knob. Okay. No volume attenuation knob on the subs. Wondering if calibrating to a higher number on the dial instead of 0. No. It's always better to cut than it is to boost. Boosting is when you can run into problems with clipping, compression, dynamic. So the cutting is better than boosting. The worry I have is everything the same, right? Because you can only cut in the AVR so much. It's only going to allow you to cut. So if you went back through and volume matched everything or SPL checked everything, how far apart is everything? Is it close enough? Great. If it's not, may have a problem because you may have speakers that it can't cut enough and you may have to add, and there's attenuators you can put in after the amplifiers, or before the amplifiers, excuse me, that will lower the voltage output coming from the AVR to the amp even further, that your volume knob would effectively do. That would be my worry is, are you close enough or are there speakers that it can't cut enough? And then it would be trying to find the happy medium of messing with the trims yourself, but then you're deviating from what the calibration software wanted to do. And you could be messing with phase and you could be messing with some other stuff by changing that. So I don't have a great answer, but I would check with an SPL meter for sure. Oh, there it is. Hishable Riken. I think I've got it down. Multi-sub optimizer allows you to incorporate all pass filters on mini DSP now. Oh, perfect. Okay, so that's great. I'm glad that's working. I'm glad that is also an option. I'd be curious if QSC does. The problem with the mini DSP that a lot of people don't think about is it's quite a noisy piece of equipment, meaning the noise that it brings into the system is quite noisy. Not that it itself creates a lot of SPL. It doesn't. There's no fan, whatever. I mean that its noise floor is not great. So on subs, it's fine, but you can create a lot of noise and distortion if you use it on like a speaker. Ezra Branderhurst. Hey, Ryan, I've been seeing some tension on YouTube about whether consumers can trust YouTube home theater reviewers, as some argue that the reviewer is biased with products, brands. Thoughts? Well, I kind of exist in this space. So I'm going to say this in this way. I don't give a shit, right? With the flight sim stuff, with the home theater, everything that I do, I don't care what other people think or say or whatever. So take this for what you want. But the brands that I have because I want them myself. I believe in them myself. And they represent what I think is as good as it can get. There are other brands, like Ascendo is not the only brand that can do what they're saying. They do a lot of things very, very well, but there are quite a few other brands that do things very, very well. A bunch of pro brands, Meyer, for example. I don't represent Meyer. It doesn't mean they're bad. There's other companies that are great. There are other companies that are not so great. So there are biases. And I will say that I am not immune to this, right? Subjectively, subconsciously, we're full of biases. And this is the problem with cited testing, right? If I can see or know what I'm talking about, of course, there's going to be some level of bias, whether I mean there to be or not. It doesn't matter. That's why blind testing is so important. I do think a lot of YouTubers are biased. I think not just in the home theater sense, in any sense, in any category, in anything that there is a review about, there is going to be some bias that is introduced, which is why I don't do reviews, because there's going to be a bias. Absolutely. There's no way to avoid it unless you're doing everything blind and you're going by the numbers. No way to avoid it. You are going to subconsciously, because this is how we as humans are, and this is my view, right? This is how I view this. Subconsciously, you're going to find ways to make the brands that you like look the best. We all do this in some capacity, right? Because we want ourselves and we want the things that we like to be looked on favorably. It's human nature. So I don't like doing reviews because of that. Just know that the brands that I try and surround myself with are brands that I trust and use myself. That's all I can say about my own use cases. But again, I do think everyone to a level is biased. There's no way around it. We as humans are biased. We're imperfect beings. It's part of how we operate. So it is what it is, but I like the brands and I will change brands if I think something is better or if they do something or start behaving or marketing or doing things that I don't believe in or that I think are poorly representing everything. I'll change, but I'll add. So one of them is like I represent um I didn't always represent Ascendo. It's a great example. Uh and then I listened to them as like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." And so I brought him on because I believe in that brand. So don't always look at it as what is the objective best. I think it's also important to look at what in context that person believes in because it's not always going to be objective. There's an emotional attachment to a lot of this stuff. Anyway, I'll get off my bandwagon, but I do want to address this one from Sasikanth Kancherla. Yes, you are absolutely right. We did. And when you posted that, I think it was you that posted that on Jonathan's video, it all came back and I'm like, "Yep, I totally screwed that one up." You're absolutely right. That was incorrect. So, in our next video that Jonathan and I do together, if you're there and if we don't do it, please make sure like if we don't do it at the beginning, make sure that we issue a correction for that because you are absolutely right that what we talked about is incorrect. That the noise floor is actually measured in a different way than what we were saying. So, good on you for making sure that we stay objective and that we are conveying the correct information. If you guys, and this is perfect segue for this. If you guys ever think that we are saying something, if I'm saying something or Jonathan is saying something that is misrepresentative of how things actually are, do not be afraid to call us out. I want to be told when I'm wrong. I have no problem admitting, hey, I screwed that up. No problem. I've had enough crap go on in my life, and I won't go into it because that's not why you guys are here. But I've had enough crap go on in my life that admitting when you're wrong, no problem. And it makes everything easier. So if you ever hear, see, whatever of us when we're wrong, and you can provide context that we can go investigate, please do it because we want to make sure that we're conveying the correct information. Absolutely. Every time. Thank you for doing that, Suskampf. Much appreciated. So trying to jump back. Ezra, that was a great question. HBK says, get some very near field 12s dedicated tactile response instead. I would use the 18s instead of 12s for near field. But yeah, you could absolutely do that. That would be appropriate. Turn them down. They're not fighting the 24s. That would be a benefit. And I think that would be helpful. Don't do 12s, do 18s, unless you're going to direct attach. Because the benefit you're going to get from the 18s and their ability to get lower, as long as they're quality 18s, the cabinets appropriately sized, is going to be far more beneficial. And the driver's larger. It doesn't necessarily have to be as close because you need to be within the distance that the driver is wide to get a decent feeling out of it. It's just going to be an overall better experience using the 18s over a 12, in my opinion. I think Jonathan would say the same thing. Ryan G says, thanks. Yeah, Mini DSPs has all pass filters. Just looking for alternatives to avoid adding 3 Mini DSPs to cover my main channels. Look at QSC QSys. You can get them on eBay, the 110F. I don't know if they can do all pass filters. I feel like they should. Feel like they can, but I don't know for sure. And there are larger versions of the Mini DSP, so you may be able to do one. Though I don't know what the limitations of those other Mini DSPs may be. So Ezra, I asked him about the Switch. He says, I definitely find the Switch 2 is way better. Games are playing the way they should be playing, frame rate graphics. Okay. Well, maybe we'll do that for her for Christmas or for her birthday because she does play the Switch quite a bit. She's starting to play a lot. Steven follows up on that and says Switch 2 is good, but it's missing the OLED. But yes, it's way more powerful and capable of playing newer games, and Donkey Kong only plays on the 2, and it's amazing. Okay. I don't care about the OLED for that. She can play on, if she attaches it to a TV or something, she can do that. She doesn't care about the fidelity of the screen. She's 6. She doesn't care about any of that. HBK says you nailed the name for me. Yay! I did it right. I'm going back to HBK because I'm going to forget. Zelda at 4K and 60 already. Huge upgrade on the 120-inch screen. Debating on handheld mode versus the Switch OLED. Huh. Well, positive debates to be had, for sure. Carl Arnez says, following my question prior on the 425 subs, I have low down grunt, however, missing the chest slam. Also curious as you have taken a similar approach mixing ULF Pro style subs. Thoughts? You're probably missing the chest slam because there's something going on in your frequency response and the time domain. You need to measure. And feel free to send me that measurement. I'll put this up again. So if anybody has questions on needing equipment, we talked about the storms earlier. If you need a storm audio processor, I've got some Epsons. You have those, or you have questions about AV, do not hesitate to send me a message. Do not ever feel like you have to buy something. I'm happy to try and make the space better. So what I would ask from you, Carl, is send me a frequency response and send me if you can take a measurement of your phase, and let's look at that. My bet is you're not getting the chest slam because something's going on with your response. And my bet is, my initial guess is something's going on between the crossover your mains into the 24s, and you're getting a fight between those, and it's bleeding into the tactile feel for that frequency range. That'd be my guess of what's happening. But send that to me if you can take a measurement. We'll have a look. Ezra, appreciate the honesty. Yeah. I think we need more honesty in this space. People are all about the sales. It's why, again, I became a dealer custom integrator. So people just need to be truthful and say what they believe in. And I think I'll say one more thing. A lot of times the reviewers have a tendency to not really say anything negative because they want to make sure that companies will send them stuff, which is fine. I mean, you got to make a living, but I don't think that's beneficial hugely to the consumer. So I try not to do it. And if I'm going to do a review like we've done at M-Wave, where we're doing the comparisons, they're not really shootouts because I think everybody's different and what somebody likes is going to be different than what somebody else likes. I try and buy all of it myself. I don't ask the companies to send it because, one, I don't like the idea of, hey, I want you to send something that I may talk negatively about. And two, I think it's really important to get a production model and not a gold sample. So if I do something, which we will do at M-Wave again next year, M-Wave, heads up, September 18th through the 20th is when it's going to be. I'm currently trying to build out the website, so hopefully we'll get it announced soon through AVS Forum, who I'm partnering with to make that all happen. But it's really important to get production models instead of golden samples. So if you're going to do it, you better do it right. Yeah, Drew, that's a great point. If you had blind testing, who knows what you'd have? We'd probably all be listening on Bose. Paul, when Jonathan says PG-13 movies are scary, Jonathan is like a big teddy bear. It's hilarious, but I can't fault him for it. I'm still convinced he watches all of his movies on his iPhone. Mosin says, PGA, no matter how much you calibrate, there's always compromise, especially PGA under 8K. The more you do, the more you are obsessive. In the end, putting up 2 PJs on standby. Your opinion? I think you mean regardless of the projector you choose, there's always a compromise. The Eclipse isn't. Oh, under 8K. Okay, yes, you're right. There's always going to be a compromise. For sure. But The NZ500 does a really good job at eliminating a lot of that. And the Epson LS12000 for less does a pretty good job. It's brighter, so you're trading brightness for contrast. So it just depends on which one you want. But yeah, right there, that is the compromise. Which one do you choose? You can't have both. So you could have two. Do you care that much? And then depending on the screen size, does it make more sense to get a TV? A 115-inch TV? Maybe. And then you wouldn't be compromising. So you got to ask yourself that question too. Oops, sorry. Valerian seems like you two are the only ones who dislike it. I'm not on either side, but everyone seems to love it except for you two. That is the one product from you guys review. You asked so. It's not that I don't like it. It's that I think it's great for its price point. It's not that I don't like it. I don't like that everybody makes it seem like it's the best thing ever. That's the part that we don't like. Right? For the price point that it is, it's great. If I was looking for a projector in that price point, I think it would absolutely be a contender. I just don't think it competes with the likes of like a JVC or a higher end Epson or something like that. Because it's a compromise, right? It does not have the gusto to be able to deliver that. Now it has other things like onboard Android and other things that those projectors don't have. So then it again becomes what makes sense and what are you asking from your equipment in your signal chain? What do you need from it? And if the Valerian ticks all of those boxes, great. AVS, that Valerian thread's probably going to talk about me, but I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it is great for its price point, but I do not think it is the end all be all like everybody says it is. Like it absolutely will see rainbow. I see rainbow on it, which is a big reason why I don't like it. So it is what it is. It's a good projector. If it ticks the boxes for you, nothing wrong with it. For that price point, great projector. Hi, Ryan. Jonathan needs to install direct art. He will be able to create omnidirectional pressure point in the room. It's advanced configuration, but I can help. He also already has really good bass response in his room. And he just doesn't like what a lot of calibrations do. He's done a lot of them, and he just doesn't like them. It's not that he hasn't used art in his room. We've used art in his room. He didn't really care for it, which is fine. Teach their own. And I don't like to pressure people to say, this is what you need to do. If I have the opportunity, I can give him stuff, but to do a proper art integration takes a while. So you can try and convince him. Like you can send him a message, but good luck. Ezra said, how did you decide which product to use for your home theater about keeping the room black? I have tried the world's blackest paint from Culture Hustle, which is good, but it can rub off the wall. How did you decide which product to use for your home theater about keeping the room black? So the room is Officina Acustica. I know Maurizio and Peter personally. I've worked with them at CD. I've helped build rooms with them. And I wanted something that represented the end. Like that room, if I could get more percentage, because this is my personality, if I could get more percentage points by spending more, I did. Until I got as far as I could with the room limitations, like this room size. So the Officina stuff represents to me the end and the other manual treatments and analog treatments that we put in there. So the room is a bunch of acoustically transparent material that is over top all of the acoustic treatments. And all the treatments are different levels of absorption and diffusion. And they're all the room itself. So a big reason why I chose them was because it allows me to take that and move it if we decide to move, which I knew we were going to, because when we built this house, I wasn't doing my business like I am now. So I run my business out of my home and I need more space. So we'll move eventually. And my big thing that I try and do is future me should not hate past me. So I tried to build in options where they I could change and I could take it with me. So that was another big reason why I chose Officina. But there's no paint except on the ceiling. And the ceiling paint, well, I guess there is paint. It's all behind the Officina stuff. It's all Duratex is what I decided to use. It's very durable. It was a pain in the ass to paint, but it worked well. And then the room itself is Officina Acustica. And then they use their black materials and gray materials, their acoustic fabrics in order to cover all of the panels. So that's what it is. I mean, wasn't that I was making necessarily a conscious choice on the treatment or on the fabric. It was what I liked the look of. So that's what we went with. Try velvet. If you're trying to chase black, do velvet. There's no comparison. The velvet will make that paint look gray. All right, we're going to wrap up here in a minute. Steven says, can we add the Christie M4K 25 to the projector comparison? I haven't gotten that far. I'm trying to just get M-Wave announced, and then I will start building out the comparisons. We'll do projectors, we'll do TVs, we'll do speakers, we'll do all of that stuff. We'll go through all of that, but haven't gotten to that point quite yet to building all of those out. HBK says, I think all of us here love projection, but how many more years do you think before TVs catch up? My problem with TVs is there's no acoustically transparent, and you're married to a large display. You date a projector. They're easier to move. So I don't have an answer for this because I haven't gotten to the point where I would move. And because I haven't done that, I haven't thought about it enough. I don't know. Right now, I know, but I don't know what I don't know. And I don't know where TVs are going to go in the future. So I can't answer that question. 5 or 10, maybe. I don't, but on the flip side of that, as TVs get better, projectors continue to get better. I mean, do we think that the technology from something like the Christie Eclipse is going to come down into other projectors? Potentially. Is there another technology that hasn't been put into projection that's going to be better and make them better? Potentially. So I look at it as there's no way for me to say if that will ever happen, because it's entirely possible that technology with projectors will change to make them even better. And then they will repass TVs in home theater. I have no idea. Who knows? That's a terrible answer, but that's where we're at. Didn't Jonathan pick Final Destination for us all to watch in the KC crawl? Yes, he did. Because he is a weirdo. And he probably watched it like this. Because that's Jonathan. But yes, he did pick that. Ezra, and I'm wrapping up after these last few comments. I'm getting the MadVR Core Mark II. Should I also be looking into getting masking? I have a 2.4 to 1 AT Stewart screen. If masking is recommended, where can I find AT masking? Using both is, in my opinion, the best outcome. If you have access to both, it is the best because you get to choose. Now, where you fall on that spectrum, I have no idea. If it were me, I would use both because MadVR allows you to make every picture bigger. But if you start noticing stretch, then you can alleviate that with masking and increase your perceived contrast. So I would use both. If you need masking, you can get manual masking panels. And I'm pretty sure you can get manual masking panels for that screen. If you need them, you can send me a message. I'm going to put this caption up again, and we can get you some masking panels. I can get them from Stuart if that's something that you need. I think you're in the States, Ezra, if I remember right. If you are, shoot me a message, and we can work on getting you taken care of. Paul A, Velvet is a good option. Yes. Velvet is absolutely a good option. Let's see. Tito, if there's anything I've learned from Ryan and Jonathan is that manual calibration is better than any auto calibration. Mostly. There are things that that auto calibration can do that we're not going to be able to do. So the best is using them both together, in my opinion. Using both manual and auto together as a system will get you the best results. So manual EQ the room, PEQ, apply PEQ, run auto, adjust the auto, and then manually adjust afterwards, in my opinion, is what's going to give you the best result. Ryan brings up a good point. The tricky part of Dirac for me is different result every time. A big reason for that is your mic position is never in the exact same spot. But maybe I'm wrong in that if you calculate from the measured data every time and it spits out a different answer, I don't know. But you are right. It's great for phase and distances. It does very well with that. Oops, sorry, says he sees TVs coming rolled up. That would be cool. That would be cool. Mike Stevens says, request to see if AWOL or someone will bring an LED wall. We are going to try. We're going to try and make that happen. I don't know if it'll happen because it's a lot of work to get video walls in. You got to build them. They're a pain in the ass to ship, but we will try. Ryan says, Jonathan wanted to leave the theater during Final Destination. He was super. I could see that. Poor guy. Poor Jonathan, but he suffered and got through it. What a guy. What a guy. That brings us to the end. So, again, to wrap this up, because I want to get rid of these, I have multiple Storm Audio units that are Cedia demos. If you're interested in that, send me a message. Here's the caption again, so that you guys have my email information. Send me an email. I've also got multiple Epsons, LS12000s that need homes. So if any of that interests you, and I also have a Sony, is it the 3000? I think it's the Sony 3000 AVR. It's the AZ3000 ES. I got one of those, and I will let that thing go because it's open box. I got the wrong one for a job. I needed the 5000. It had certain options that it needed, and I got a 3000. So if you need a Sony 3000, let me know. Epson LS12000, let me know. Storm Audio, let me know. We'll get you taken care of. I'm not going to push things on you. I'm going to tell you if I don't think it's a good option for you, but if you need something, let me know. We'll do more of these. I'm going to think about when I can schedule them because I do enjoy them. Hopefully you guys enjoy them. I just like talking. I like interacting with all of you guys. It's why I got into this business, and it's why I don't feel like I'm ever working. So hopefully you guys enjoyed these. Leave comments if you did, and especially if you like this morning structure, because me dropping my daughter off from school and then coming home and streaming while I'm working, we can make that happen. So shoot me a message, drop a comment on the streams on YouTube or Facebook. Let me know if you liked them, and we'll try and make with your home theater journeys. But thanks for tuning in. I like the smaller streams. I had fun. So we'll do this again. I'll figure out when I'm going to do it, and enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there. Enjoy.